March 18th, there is a new moon in the final degrees of Pisces. This comes just a couple days before the Aries equinox. This moment in time is another one of those little birth-death portals. We've been feeling into a few of them, and I'm sure there's a few more to come. They appear as these little windows of time, 2 to 3 days long, with big energetic spikes. We had one at the winter solstice, we had one in February with the eclipse, and then Saturn and Neptune coming conjunct at 0 degrees of Aries. That all happened within a couple days of each other. And now here we are again. 3i Atlas was just with Jupiter, its final flyby in our solar system. Then we have a new moon on the 18th, just 2 days later, and 2 days after that, we have the Aries equinox. This is a moment in time, so let's get into it. This new moon is ending eclipse season. We just came out of our eclipses. It's also ending the zodiac year, right? The Aries equinox is the beginning of the entire wheel of the zodiac. This new moon takes place at 28 degrees of Pisces. Pisces, being the last sign of the zodiac, is all about disillusion of self into the infinite all of everything. Coming straight off eclipse season, we are in a time of disillusion. We are in a time of death. And to me, this moment in time feels like the birth portal. It feels like the death of things that were so that new things can be born. And I think it's prominent to talk about the caterpillar to butterfly here, right? We all know that a caterpillar enters its cocoon and then transforms into a butterfly. But have we stopped to really think about how that process happens? The caterpillar enters the cocoon, completely dissolves itself to mush, sits in that liminal mush state where then slowly the butterfly, the new form, will start to emerge. We are in this time of mush. The old version of us, the old world, the old reality, the old timelines has died. The door has closed. There is no going back. And this liminal space that we're in, it's almost as if we are taking the energy back from what we have closed the door on, from what has died, and it is marinating, it's incubating to turn into its new form. And for me personally, I'm starting to get tastes and flavors. I can kind of sense into what might be birthing, but there's still so much that's unknown. It's just these little hints that I'm getting. While we are approaching a new moon, and new moons are times of planting new seeds, this new moon in particular just has so much energy around dissolving and death and what we're letting go of. This is still a time of purging. This is a time of karmic clearing. It's not just things in our life, but it's patterns. It's karmic patterns that we've existed in up until this point, that we've been playing out, that are probably older than this lifetime, that are ancestral. It's parts of the psyche, parts of the self that are dying, and we need to make space to honor that. The psyche grieves parts of self and patterns dying in the same way that we imagine grieving a loved one dying. The body feels it in the same way, and while the caterpillar undergoes this transformation, this goo-like state in the chrysalis, protected away from the rest of the world, we're in this huge alchemical cauldron and still going to work, and still expected to pay our bills, and still expected to show up in society as a whole, and that's quite unnatural. So can you give yourself space, and can you give yourself time to move through this process? It's a deeply vast unconscious process that the logical thinking mind just can't quite grasp on to. We can understand bits and pieces, but this process is much bigger than we can fully grasp. I mentioned that in February we had an eclipse, and Saturn and Neptune coming conjunct in Aries shortly after that. That was one of the biggest points of 2026. And that spoke to moving into the new. Pisces being the last sign of the zodiac, it is dissolving, but it also kind of represents everything that we've come from, everything that we're stepping away from, this oldness. So when Saturn and Neptune came conjunct at 0 degrees of Aries, it was this big step forward into the new. However, shortly after, Mercury went retrograde in Pisces, and we had a bunch of planets in Pisces. So while we took this big, beautiful step into the new, there is still all this in the old that had to be worked out. And that's really my sense for this year, is it's like 2 steps into the new, 1 step into the old, 2 steps into the new, 1 step into the old. And it's so we can really clear this out, so we can let go of everything that has been in the old to step into a full new form. This transformation is total. There's no parts of ourselves, of society, of the collective that will get left behind. So Mercury has been retrograde in Pisces. Mercury, the mind, has been on an inward journey to revisit, review, revise things to get you more aligned on your destiny path. Mercury going on an inward journey is going down to the underworld, to parts of yourself, of your psyche that you usually can't access with the conscious mind, to give you insights, to redirect you on your path forward. This Mercury retrograde rocked me. I don't always feel them this intensely, but I felt my mind, my ego structures completely dissolving and being reformed. My unintentional motto of this Mercury retrograde was, I don't understand what the fuck is going on. And that's because you're not meant to. It is below the conscious mind. You need to get into the body, into the senses, to get an understanding of how this process is unfolding. Mercury is wrapping up his retrograde. He stations direct on the equinox on March 20th. So on the 18th, on this new moon, he's in his last few days of his retrograde period, meaning he has these last bits of insights to give you regarding your path forward. Mercury is also conjunct the North Node. The North Node is our soul's path forward, our destiny, the lessons that our soul came to learn here in this lifetime. Mercury conjunct the North Node, meaning the mind on its inward journey to align you with your destiny, is together with your destiny point. The insights. Your mind is giving you insights on your destiny path forward. That new big dream that we're dreaming in with Saturn and Neptune and Aries, Mercury conjunct the North Node is giving us insights on how to make it a reality, on how to ground it in. This could also show up like Mercury showing us what still needs to dissolve, what patterns need to let go of, what needs to shed in order to take those steps towards your destiny path. Mercury, because he's stationing direct on the North Node, he's going to be on the North Node for 6 days. Mercury moves very fast, and this is uncommon. So we have almost a full week of Mercury with the North Node of the mind on our destiny path, translating our destiny, translating our path forward. There is a lot of energies in Pisces, and Pisces shadow is disillusion, is getting really ungrounded, floating off into the ether and not being present in the moment. We really want to look out for that, and we really want to avoid that, because this is a time when we can get magnificent insights on our path forward. Mars is only a couple degrees away, Mars being the action-oriented part of self. So you have your mind translating your destiny path forward, and then you have your action-oriented part of self right there a couple degrees away, enabling you to take action on the insights that you get. This is really good, and we really want to take advantage of this energy. To recap, we've got a new moon in the final degrees of Pisces. We're in this phase of deep shedding, of deep clearing. We are the goo in the chrysalis. Things have died, the new thing has not yet born, and we're in this liminal state, and our mind is together with our destiny path forward, giving us insights on what form we are blossoming into. New moons, we want to plant seeds. So it's, again, just this weird liminal energy of, okay, all these things are dying and this is a time to plant seeds. How do you plant seeds on the other side of the veil? How do you plant seeds in liminal spaces? For myself, it's looking like deeply honoring what is dying, what is shedding, holding space for the natural grief that comes along with endings, whatever that ending is. Whether it's a person, a place, a job, a home, a part of self, like even an unconscious pattern. Sometimes our bodies can grieve, whatever it may be. Let there be space for grief. And then I try to step into the frequency of the new to the best of my ability. So even if my external reality is not reflecting this new thing that I'm calling in, because we're still in this liminal space of time outside of time, can I call in that frequency in my body? Can I really feel what that frequency feels like? Can I breathe into it? Can I expand it? Can I step into the energetic frequency as much as possible to call it into me faster? A great way to do this is meditating on your higher self. What do they feel like? What do they look like? What do they sense? And not just imagining, like, yes, visualizing is great, but can you feel into them? What does your higher self feel like? How does your higher self move through the world? How does she show up at work? How does she show up at home? How does she show up online? How does she show up creatively? Get a sense for what she feels like, and then marinate in that. Let it touch every cell of your body. That's just one way to plant seeds in liminal spaces and plant seeds on the other side of the veil, but feel into you what works for you. Plant those seeds, but honor the shedding, honor the dissolution, honor the grief and any other emotions that arise with that, because that is, when we do, we harness that energy to pour into the butterfly that's being born. During this new moon, we have Venus conjunct Sekhmet squaring Jupiter and Black Moon Lilith squaring the nodes. Okay, what does that mean? Black Moon Lilith is the instinctual, wild nature of the feminine. Whether you're in a man or woman's body, we all have feminine and masculine energy inside of our body. Our psyches are comprised of masculine and feminine energy. The wild instinctual nature of the feminine is the foundation of the feminine psyche, is the foundation from which feminine energy arises. Now, Black Moon Lilith holds the conglomerate of all of the dark goddesses, meaning that she holds the aspects of the feminine that have been demonized, repressed, denied. We live in a patriarchal society with an imbalance in masculine and feminine energy. So the instinctual, wild nature of the feminine, things like deep body intuition, things like sexuality, things like wild creative power, things like denser emotions, shame, guilt, anger, grief. These are all fundamental aspects of feminine energy that have been denied, repressed, controlled, monopolized in our society, therefore in ourselves. Black Moon Lilith squaring the nodes of fate is saying, you will not move forward without me. The wild instinctual nature of the feminine is part of the path forward. I will not let you move on without me. And squares are challenging aspects. So individually, we are being asked to integrate more of our instinctual, wild nature. This can show up like intuition. This can show up like a wild woman awakening. This can show up like raw creative power. This can show up as sacred sexuality. This can show up as facing the difficult, dense emotions, facing your demons, whatever it may be. In myth, Lilith was the first woman in the Garden of Eden. She was made as Adam's equal, and she left the Garden of Eden because she chose not to be subservient. She would not be subservient because it was not true to her. Black Moon Lilith is sitting in Sagittarius squaring the nodes. Sagittarius is a sign of truth. So our instinctual wild nature is in the sign of truth. It is a truth that we cannot ignore at this point in time. It is a truth that we cannot ignore on our path forward. Venus being together in the sky with Sekhmet is amplifying that. Sekhmet is a dark goddess. She is also very aligned with truth. And square Jupiter, Jupiter is the planet of expansion. He is the great benefic in the sky. He is the grace bomb. He expands whatever he touches. And he's in a square, a challenging aspect of integration with Venus. So he's wanting to expand Venus. He's wanting to expand the feminine aspects of self, yet it's going to come in a challenging way of integration. And I'm really feeling into this as what we spoke about with Black Moon Lilith. The expansion of the feminine is going to come through reclamation of the parts of her that have been demonized, denied, repressed. The wild, instinctual nature of the feminine and everything that comes along with that is being really highlighted in this new moon. And really fascinating is that this new moon is in an out of sign square to Isis and Horus. So the new moon we talked about is at 28 degrees of Pisces. Isis and Horus are together at 0 degrees of Cancer. Cancer and Pisces are of the same sign, so when we see aspects there, usually it's a trine, it's a flowing, harmonious aspect. But because the new moon is at the final degrees of Pisces and Isis and Horus are at the beginning degrees of Cancer, we get an out of sign 92 degree square between the new moon and Isis and Horus. Isis and Horus, what is this about? First of all, they're of the same lineage. Okay, they're of the same myth, so there we have some amplification and power. Isis is the deep, sacred, magical mother aspect of the feminine. She is one of the oldest feminine lineages that we have. She is deep magic, deep sacred feminine, but where Lilith is like deep underground, the repressed parts of self, Isis is like high magic feminine, but like big sacred magic. Together with Horus, the divine child, her child, the divine child who holds the radiant solar quality. The square between Isis and Horus and the new moon feels like it's telling us what has the potential to be born. This deep, magical, mystical, sacred mother aspect of the feminine who holds deep feminine power. The divine child. And the divine child in alchemy is what comes when we have a union between masculine energies in self and then out into the world. When we harmonize our masculine and feminine energies, we create this third union energy, which is the divine child, who lives on to become the solar principle, the solar king. It feels like this square is letting us know what has the potential to be born, these sacred lineages resurging, and this birth of something that holds cosmic intelligence in it. Isis, in her myth, she also carries resurrection through grief-fueled love, and I think that's so important when we're in this time of death, just big death. Y'all, I've been through a lot of death portals. This one feels the biggest to me. It feels the most complete. It feels the most total. And for Isis being square this new moon, holding this grief-fueled love, this sacred grief, this grief that has a purpose, that is turned into love, that resurrects her lover and creates the divine child Horus, gives us inspiration for what we can do with our grief. We can feel it, we can alchemize it, we can turn it into sacred grief, into love, to fuel the butterfly that we are becoming, right? We're still in the chrysalis. We're still the mush. Pisces is this formless potential, this dissolving into nothingness. And Isis and Horus in Cancer is the form that is wanting to be born. And the square is almost like sacred friction of this birth canal, friction that is necessary for birth. I would love to hear how you're experiencing this energy, what's showing up for you in your life. Let me know down in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It really helps me out, and I hope to see you all soon.